Welcome in Monday Live, presented by, we already off to a rough start here, presented by Trey Humphreys, Old River Real Estate. My name's Jason Priester, Clemson Insider. Want to appreciate, see there, just stumbling everywhere right out of the gates. Want to thank everybody that is tuning in. I can tell you I'm having a little problem with the Facebook feed. You might have to go if you want me to be able to see your comments. You're gonna have to go. If you're on Facebook, you have to go to the Facebook page, TCI page, events, and you can find it under there. Baseball season is upon us, and with that in mind, as promised, I got one of my good pals here, Miss Aspie Mixon. You're going to have to forgive me because I got diarrhea of the mouth already.
Oh, JP, it happens to the best of us. Oh, my goodness.
I've been saying we're going to dive into baseball starting tonight for 2 or 3 weeks now. Here we are. My man Tickled Tiger, your baseball show right here. Hopefully that gets you a little relief from some of the stuff you're going through. I hate to hear that, man. Prayers up for you, my man. Yeah, if you're on YouTube, no worries, man. We good there. It's just a Facebook thing, man. It's not on the front of the Facebook page like normal. You have to go into the events to find it. And if you want to comment and see it, you have to go on the actual TCI page. If it's in a group where it's shared and you're commenting under that, we're not going to see it. All right, before we dive into it, want to take a moment to shout out our newest title sponsor, Trey Humphreys, Old River Real Estate. He's looking to expand his clientele by providing the best customer service in the industry and letting everybody know about it. Residential, commercial, investing, buying, or selling, Trey would love the opportunity to help you. Give him a call today, 843-617-6548, the number scrolling at the bottom continuously. And if you're in the PD area and or familiar with the PD area, it's hard to find a better area than out there at River Road, man. Going out, once you get past the crossroads there at Clawson and stuff, PD River. I spent a lot of time out there in my youth. Don't remember a lot of it, but spent a lot of time there. One of our newest sponsors, Trey Humphreys, Old River Real Estate. Also, special shout out to Adams Termite and Pest Control, another business right here in the PD. They can help you with all your termite and pest control needs. Mike Adams, Pest and Termite Control. Now that the business part's out of the way, how you doing there, Ashby?
I'm doing great, JP. I feel like it's Christmas Eve a little bit this week. How you doing?
I'm doing well, but see that's what happens when you just hit the go live button and don't have a whole lot of a plan there, and you just start winging it and you start tripping all over your words and you're not sure where to say this or where to say that, and it takes me about 3 minutes to really get you in there.
JP, you know what? We're here. We're ready to go. We're in this together. And you're in Clemson for the first time in a hot minute. Welcome back.
It has been a minute. I think my wife is glad to have me out of the house. She talked all weekend about how she just knew I was ready to leave. I think it was more about her being ready for me to leave for a few days. She's getting her wish because I'm going to be going over a week this time. But opening day is upon us. Almost. Friday. And before that, we're going to get to hear from Eric Bakich and a few players again tomorrow before they start the season. If history is any indication, do not expect him to be starting or announcing his starting lineup tomorrow. That won't come out to Thursday or Friday, I'm sure. So I wouldn't be holding my breath for that to be one of the announcements tomorrow. But always a treat to get him. But, Clemson's going to open up a little bit differently this year. Not that opening up at home is different because they do that more often than not. Didn't do it last year. Went and played in that big tournament out in Texas and took 2 out of 3. But they're welcoming Army to town. First time Clemson's ever played Army. Anybody that follows Eric Bakich in this program, they know how devoted, dedicated, however you want to say it. He is the military and those kind of traditions. You can see it when they're doing the national anthem pregame and stuff. He's real serious about that stuff. He likes to have somebody singing it live every game. So it's a rare occurrence to hear it just played over the loudspeakers anymore. But I would imagine, what kind of things do you think we might see Friday on opening day from a military appreciation standpoint?
Well, first of all, I think it's kind of interesting that to start last year versus how they're starting this year, it's like as night and day as you can get, in my opinion, in my mind. Last year, you went to this big tournament. You're far from home. You're playing against some top 25 teams. And it's kind of just to measure yourself as to where you're at early in the season. Obviously, Clemson took 2 out of 3, like you said. And this year, it kind of feels like it's more of a focus on who Clemson is and kind of celebrating Clemson's military heritage and, Coach Backich's. And it feels like a really celebratory way to start a season and kind of to ground it in that almost. And so through that, I think you're obviously going to see the proud to be an American, everybody going up into the stands. I think that was a really cool tradition that, garnered a lot of interest and a lot of views to the program last year. And I think it's just a really cool thing. You're definitely going to get a live anthem. I agree with you, JP. And kind of going back to that, you're actually related to one of the DKS national anthem singers.
Yeah. Yeah. My daughter comes out there and sings. Yeah. She's coming twice this year. What's in March, one in May.
Is she really?
Yes. I know it's the Florida State series, and that's the second time. The first time is going to be maybe I'm not even going to venture it. Yeah, I was right. Georgia Tech, I think.
That's a big one.
Yep, Georgia Tech and Florida State series, both the Saturday games of those series. Yeah, I know I'm biased and all, man, but she does pretty well.
Oh, she can sing 100%. Listen, they're gonna need her. They're gonna need her there for good luck for both of those series. So I appreciate that she's booked for the big ones. She's the marquee. I love it.
Well, I tried to get her in there for this weekend, but it was they're doing the military stuff, and so I let her pick whenever she wanted to come, and she picked those. But I found it interesting that this game's kind of been planned for a long time. Didn't really realize that until he told us last week. This has been kind of on the books since before they even started going up in the stands and stuff. So it's like they've known that they were going to play Army or open the season against Army this year for a while. Backich opened the season against Army in 2018, I think it was, when he was at Michigan. 2 pretty competitive games. One of them kind of got out of hand, but Army took one of them and was right there in the mix to take a second one. This thing, especially seeing how it's the first series of the season and everybody's kind of trying to knock off the rust, is probably dangerous if you were to overlook this Army's team.
Oh, absolutely. This was a team that was not half bad last year. They had a really good record at home, not as solid on the road, but I think Coach Backich kind of said it best last time he talked to us and saying like, hey, these guys are not coming to Clemson and they're not coming here scared to play you guys. These are guys that are up every single day before any of our staff has woken up and they're already working. This will be the easiest part of their day is practice. And so I think that mindset is kind of good going into it of like, this is not some little school that, is looking at Doug Kingsmore Stadium and saying, oh my goodness, like this is insane. These guys are pretty tough and they're going to give you all you can handle. So you can't just come out and expect an easy win to open your season. That's for sure.
And I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out there. I see some of you's got some football stuff and some recruiting stuff, and we'll get to it. I promise. We're going to do the baseball stuff here at the top, and then I'll work my way down to that stuff. So don't feel like I'm ignoring them or anything. You can just drop them over there. I will get to them before we bolt out of here. I promise. It seems like Bakich is pretty high on the depth of this team. You know, he kind of readily admitted it's not like elite depth, but he feels like he's got 12 hitters that he really trusts, or let's say 12 position players that he really trusts. If you can keep everybody healthy, one of his biggest problems might be deciding who to slide in there in the lineup every day and where at, because there's some pretty good bats that aren't going to be in there every day. If you look at this roster, you know, there's some guys that just aren't going to be able to play every day. It does give you the benefit of giving guys days off here and there. You don't have to play every day, but you know, I think of a guy like maybe Jack Crichton or Tristan McClatty. Those two come to the, you know, are the first two off the top of my head that maybe don't play 4 or 5 days a week, but they play 2-3 days a week. Is this the deepest lineup he's had since he's been here?
It's definitely deeper than last year, 100%. And I think it's a lot more powerful. And to be able to have that many guys that you feel like you trust, I think that's a really good sign for what he's thinking about this team. And like you said, being able to have those guys that are veteran guys that may not be everyday starters, but can slot in and play kind of where you need them to and have the opportunity to work to be a starter. I think that's also a really good sign that, you know, you have those guys and you can kind of rotate people in and out. Like, it's not like if so-and-so on first base gets hurt, what's going to happen? Well, no, you have 3 other players that can slide in right there and you're going to be okay. So I actually kind of thought it was interesting that he said we're not the deepest team ever. But looking at it, I'm kind of like, Coach, it kind of feels like you are right now.
I feel like it might be one of his deepest, which I thought, you know, let me get this out of the way. I thought last year was going to be a little bit deeper than it ended up being. You know, matter of fact, when they got off to such a slow start from a power standpoint, you know, I kept saying they'll come. And they really didn't. You know, they found ways to win without having a whole lot of pop. They only hit like 73 homers last year. I think they had 108 or 109, 104.
104.
Something like that the year before. It was like 30 something or close to 30 less. That's a big drop off. But when you go out and add guys like Ty Daly, Nate Savoy, maybe, just maybe, you get this year, you get what you from Luke Gaffney, what you thought you were going to get last year. You know, by all accounts, he's really put in the work. You get Jake Gerald back, who, you know, at the end of the season last year, that wasn't a guarantee that he was coming back. You still have Colin Priest there. He's probably another one I should have mentioned a minute ago about maybe not being able to play every day. There's going to be some, I'm probably forgetting somebody, but there's going to be a little bit more pop in this lineup as opposed to last year. I feel pretty confident about that.
Yeah, and you have your 1 and 2 home run producers in Jacob Gerald and Colin Priest coming back. And that's not even, I think, where you're the most excited about, you know, seeing that pop. I think Ty Daly is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he is the active leader in home runs in college baseball. I believe he has 58. The next highest person has 48. So just right there with that, I think it would be shocking if he didn't really, really add to that quickly.
And I would too, because to me, it's a little bit different when you're comparing him to like, let's say a Luke Gaffney who came in last year, and the expectations were so high for Gaffney. And maybe we should have pumped the brakes on that a little bit, seeing as he was just finishing up his freshman year, making the jump from the Big Ten to the ACC. But a guy like Ty Daly, he's been around. He's played 3 years. He's a veteran. I wouldn't at least, anyways, I wouldn't expect him to struggle with the jump maybe as much as a freshman. So let's talk about center field.
Let's do it.
I feel bad for anybody that's trying to follow in the footsteps of Cam Kennerella. I mean, it's not possible.
It's not fair.
The guy was so good out there, and no matter who's out there, whatever day it is, that's going to be the standard that he's held up to. And it's not a realistic standard. and by all accounts, it's going to be Bryce Claiborne, the transfer from Georgia. We got to see him play some in the fall, and I saw him make some highlight reel catches, a couple of highlight reel catches out there during the fall. Saw Jack Crichton make one when he was in center field. How do you think a player like that handles that kind of pressure of trying to follow Canarella, or seeing as how, or does he even think about it, seeing as he wasn't even at Clemson last year?
That's what I was going to say. I think it helps that he was not here while Cam Canarella was, kind of in his reign of glory in center field. And he's going to live with that comparison all season if it ends up being Bryce Claiborne. But the ball's in your court. It really is. If you go out there and you make some plays and you're solid and you're good enough to win, that's all it needs to be. You don't need to be Cam Canarella for Clemson to win baseball games. I think especially this year with the power that they're going to add. So he really just needs to be serviceable to good for Clemson to win games. And I think the more solid that he is, it's going to be less of a conversation. If Clemson's losing, if he's having some bad moments out there, then I think the comparisons will really kick up. But if he's just being as solid as he can, then I think the comparisons don't really matter that much. If it was me and I'm out there, I don't think it would get in my head as much if I'm succeeding as much as I need to.
That's kind of the way I see it. The only way you'll really hear anything about it is if he makes couple of major errors out there or something, which he's bound to make one or two here and there. He's human. It's baseball. Again, not everybody's Canarella. But based on what I saw in the fall, he was pretty good out there. He was pretty good.
It's kind of like offensive linemen. Like, you don't want to notice him for something bad. If he's just solid and good, great. That's where you want to be. But one or two highlight reel catches, I think, would be pretty fun for Clemson fans.
Let's go back to Gaffney. They made a big deal about, I can't even remember who put it out now. It might have been, was it Clemson that put out the video clips about Gaffney back in the fall?
Yes.
I thought it was. And him working on his swing and those kind of things. You're a student, you're on campus, you hear things. What have you heard about Gaffney, not just, in the preseason, but in the fall?
Well, to start off, you and I were at the Savannah Bananas exhibition. And what was that, October, I
think.
And I remember turning to you and saying, oh my goodness, Luke Gaffney looks so much bigger. He looks so much stronger. Like, I didn't recognize him at first. Which I believe he went somewhere out of the state all summer and trained and put on like 15 pounds of muscle. Like, he looks like a different guy. That's just number one. And I think that his swing and all that, from all accounts that Coach Bakich has said, has kind of followed in that way as well. I think he had to adjust to ACC pitchers and what that was going to look like for him. And on top of that, I think it was probably a mental thing as well, of being the guy when he was a freshman and, transferring and not having the season that you wanted. So I think kind of that reset, that physical reset, and being able to reset his swing and all of that, he looks like a different guy. And by all accounts, he's playing like one as well.
Yeah, I do think that with him, it got a little bit mental. Particularly over the back third of the season, just, you could tell that you could tell by his body language most of all. But, yeah, he looked like a different dude in the fall, that is for sure. Here's a good one. I hadn't even talked about this at all, but the new tournament seeding format, they're changing it up a little bit this year, where they're going to, usually they seed them 1 through 16, and the top 16 seeds, those 16 seeds get to host a regional. Now they're going to seed the top 32 teams rather than just the 16. Like they're going to prepare number 1 seeds and number 2 seeds in pods based on the ranking and stuff. I'm kind of interested to see how all this works out. I don't know that it has that big of an impact on Clemson's ability to host a regional. I got to see how it plays out first, though, because when it comes to this seeding and stuff, you always have to take into account the human element. So there's bound to be some surprises. I'll tell you what has surprised me. I think it was Baseball America. There's been a couple of publications that are not projecting Clemson to even host a regional this year.
I saw Clemson as a 3 seed recently in one of them.
I've seen them as a 2 seed in one of them. So that to me that's more intriguing than the tournament format. Man, I still can't talk. Tournament format.
So is it still the top 16 seeds will host a regional?
If I'm not mistaken, yeah, that's the way it's going to be. They'll rank the top 32 teams. The 1 through 16 will be the national seeds. Those will be your hosts. So I mean, I don't know that it'll impact anybody's ability to be a host unless there's something I'm just missing here. But the top number. You still have the top 8 seeds or get the host super regionals, and the higher ranked 2 seeds will be paired with the lower ranked 1 seeds. That's something that'll be a little bit different, but
that's interesting.
Yeah, as far as 1 through 16, I don't know that it changes a whole lot, to be quite honest. Who's playing where?
Tell us.
I think in the outfield, you're looking at Ty Daly in right, Clavon in center, Crichton in left, Savoy in left. I think you'll see both of them out there. I think you'll see Savoy DH in some.
I think you'll see Savoy catching some.
I was about to say he can give Gerald some days off behind the plate. Your infield, I imagine, is going to be mostly Luke Gaffney at first. Colin Priest sprinkled in some. I mean, Purified second, Lichtenberger shortstop. Third base, I'm going with Fultz. Jason Fultz, the freshman. I think McClatty will play kind of like a utility role because that guy can play third, shortstop, second, first base. He can play the outfield. Backett said he can even play center field. I don't know that I'd ever bank on them putting him out there. But
if worst came to worst,
he gives you a lot of versatility, and then obviously Gerald behind the plate. So I think that's kind of what you're looking at. You disagree?
I agree with you. I think when asked about Fultz, Backett pretty clearly said, yeah, he's one of the 12. He's got to be out there. And stop me, but I don't know the last time he has been that high on a true freshman hitter, because he was like, his bat to ball skills are next level for his age.
Well, he was a stud coming out of high school. I didn't remember him being so highly rated coming out of high school. He gets like a 10 perfect grade at perfect game. He's like, golly, I can look it up right fast. One of my buddy Andy sent me this the other day. I didn't even realize he was rated that highly. Jason Fultz. He was rated as the 119th player overall, regardless of position. The 6th highest rated third baseman in the country. He's rated number 2 overall in Pennsylvania, the top third baseman in his state, and he got a perfect grade of 10, which is pretty good. A lot of those guys that get those 10s usually don't make it to high school. So, and he is also one of those guys. He's one of those freshmen that's a little bit older. He'll be draft eligible after the 27 season.
Mm-hmm.
So you might only get 2 years of that guy if he's as good as they all expect him to be.
I do not think it will take Clemson fans long to kind of see that based on what we saw. He was somebody that just in watching fall scrimmages, he popped so quickly. Like I remember looking and being like, who was that? Who was that?
The ball just sounds different when it's just there's a little bit different kind of a ping.
Yeah.
When somebody's hitting it that hard and he's got it.
As a freshman, pretty fun.
I can't say why your name's showing up different. It's something that happened a few weeks ago. I have no idea why. It depends on where you're watching from, I imagine. So I wish I could answer that, but I can't. But I do know who I did know. I assumed this was you though, just because of that the way the tiger paw. Yes, the weather could be a factor. There's a chance for some rain on Sunday, so I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility that we get our first doubleheader on the first weekend, I guess. We shall see. Let's go to the pitching. And as far as a new player to watch, we just talked about him, Fultz. That would be mine.
That would be mine, along with a Ty Daly and a Nate Savoy.
Yeah, when somebody asks me that, I always think about freshmen. So, but yeah, those guys too, for sure. Package did say this is the deepest pitching staff he's had since he's been here. And pitching was something after the season ended last year and after they made their moves in the portal. Pitching is something that I had serious questions about, or let's say reservations. I just wasn't convinced that they had enough. And then you start going to some scrimmages in the fall and you start seeing some of these guys throw. And you start seeing some of these freshmen throw, and you're like, holy crap. This is not what I expected at all. I mean, yeah. I was so encouraged, after I can't remember how many scrimmages I went to, 6, 7, 8, something like that. But I was so encouraged by what I saw from the pitching staff. And guys like Aiden Knock and Jacob McGovern, and I'm sure there were one or two more, didn't even throw in the fall. So, I mean, you're not even seeing those guys. Titsworth threw an inning each weekend, so he's barely throwing. And he was downright dominant innings he did throw. So throw that out there. But I've said it on here before, and I'll say it again. I had somebody up there tell me that this was the most polished group of freshman pitchers he's seen since he's been at Clemson, and he goes back to the Monty days. And I didn't think a whole lot about it. But then after I watched it, I'm like, yeah, he might be on to something, man. He might be on to something. And the more I watched, the more I started to buy in. We know Aiden Knott's going to be the guy on Friday. Titsworth. Who's that third starter?
I think Talon Bell. That's my guess.
And where does Jacob McGovern kind of fit in?
I think wherever you need him to.
Kind of like he did last year?
Yeah. I think he provides you with good, reliable opportunity every weekend. But what's so great about this freshman pitching staff, like you were kind of talking about, is I think it takes a lot of pressure off of an Aiden Knock, a Drew Titsworth, even a Jacob McGovern early in the season. Because what's been the biggest issue with Clemson baseball in the postseason? Injuries and pitchers staying healthy. For them, at least to me, that's a big deal.
And running out of gas because they've had to throw too much.
And so if you can not let Aiden Knock go as long as he, his maximum would be early in the season, and you can trust those kinds of guys to get in there early, like you can trust a freshman to go out there, give you a couple innings and know that it's not going to be a nightmare in week 2, week 3. I think that's a luxury that I don't think Coach Backage has had at any point since he's been at Clemson, truly.
Yeah, I'm kind of anxious to see how the first 3 weeks, where we are after about the time South Carolina series rolls around, the third weekend of the season, how this pitching staff starting to take shape, because by the time we get to conference play, it's liable to look a little different. Circumstances always change, but I'm with you. I think we're at least gonna start out with Knock, Titsworth, and Talon Bell. Who do you think the midweek starter is? Brandon Bennett, maybe?
I think Brendan Bennett, I think eventually you want to work Dane Moeller up to be in that, right? That's a guy that was highly anticipated last year. All accounts pointed to the fact that he was probably going to be a weekend starter as a freshman and, had surgery, was hurt the whole 9 yards. Coach Backus just kind of said he's now going to be on the Talon Bell plan where, you start him slow, you work him up. But if you could get that guy to where he's giving you, good, meaningful innings later in the season in conference play, that is a whole nother kind of a boost because that's a guy that can play.
Oh yeah, he was going to be a starter last year before he got hurt. That's for that. And man, it turns out they could have really used him because that's what killed him last year was just the lack of quality arms and guys getting hurt. Because even some of the guys that were still throwing weren't 100% healthy. Yeah, no. People were banged up and they were trying to pitch through injuries, and it just wasn't a good situation. But I think they're in much better shape. We talked about who we think is going to be the 3 weekend starters, and we mentioned Brendan Bennett, he was another guy that a left-hander throwing gas in the fall. He was up in the mid-90s. And then you've got, let's see here, I don't want to miss anybody.
Are you just talking about freshmen right now?
No, just overall. You brought the transfer Hayden Simerson in. You got the Alabama transfer Ariston VC. Well, though it might be a few weeks before we see him.
I'm excited to see Dion Brown.
He's the last one on this list. Dvorsky's back. Joe Allen's back. Michael Sharman you brought in from Tennessee. Dan Margulies is a freshman that's probably gonna help a lot this year. I'm anxious to see Nick Frusco. Never got to see him during the fall. He just never pitched on the weekends I was there. I remember he was dealing with an illness a couple times, and he just, I guess, took a while to get back from it. Kissenberg's back. We talked about McGovern. If LeGuernick could ever just figure out how to throw strikes on a consistent basis, that's a guy that can be a dog out of the bullpen. And then you got some freshmen in Danny Nelson, Peyton Miller, who's the other one? Eston Simpson, and maybe even Dylan Harrison, who did some two-way stuff in the fall. Those, and last but not least, Dion Brown. That guy there, talking about somebody that looked different. That guy looks like a different dude.
Yes.
I remember when he was a freshman, one of the people up there that works around the program told me, give him some time. And if he gets bigger and stronger, he's going to be throwing 95. And he was throwing 96, 97. He was throwing gas in the fall and like strikes. And he wasn't walking guys. I know that scrimmage is not a real thing, but you got to start somewhere. I would not be surprised if he doesn't end up being, one of the closers, with that kind of stuff, as long as he's not walking guys, not getting tattooed. If he's effective, that might end up being your closer right there.
He looked nasty in everything I saw in the fall. Like, talk about the most improved whatever. I think we heard that he was hitting about 88 in bullpens his true freshman year last year. And now to be at 97, to have that kind of a shift in that short amount of time, number one, very excited to see him get some action. And number two, what a good sign for these freshman pitchers coming in, that's the development that's currently happening.
Especially when you got guys coming in like Danny Nelson and Eston Simpson, who are already throwing 95.
Exactly. Can you imagine?
I mean, I think it was D1 Baseball that put out a tweet last week that said Clemson had 11 pitchers that hit 95 in the fall. I don't know. I don't know that I saw 11 of them hit 95, but I saw a bunch of them. It was well over a half a dozen that hit 95 that I saw in my own eyes. They've definitely got power arms that they've not had in the past. Now, Backett should be the first one to tell you, velo is not everything.
No.
I mean, you got to be able to do more than just throw it hard. You got to be able to locate it and have some movement and mix. You got to have a couple of other pitches too, but particularly if you're starting, you got to have at least three. But that mid 90s stuff, that's just not something we've seen from these Clemson pitchers. Heck, going back to a long time.
I was going to say, when is the last time you've seen that kind of depth and velo for Clemson pitching staff? Has that ever happened?
I was just trying to think of the last time. I don't know that I can. Not that many. And we've seen a guy here, a guy there coming through that throws 94, 95, but I don't remember anything like what I saw in the fall this year with that many guys that throw that hard. I mean, I'm getting old and my memory's bad, but not off the top of my head anyways.
I just think that is going to be so helpful and crucial to an Aiden Canuck, to a Drew Titsworth, to those kinds of guys in these first few weeks, really and truly. It takes the pressure off. It alleviates a lot of stress. It decreases the chance for injury, and you get to see what you have pretty quick, Yeah,
you don't have to worry about this. And the first thing that'll happen is people will start griping, oh, man, Canuck's only throwing 4 innings or he's only throwing 5. Right. These guys ain't going to have to – they're not going to have to throw 6, 7 innings, here early in the season. And the staff doesn't want them to throw that much. The goal is to be able to have a deep enough bullpen, like you just said, to take some of that pressure off those guys so they don't have to throw as many pitches early and they don't have to go as deep into games.
It is a conscious choice. To have this in your head now, Clemson fans. It is a conscious choice for Aiden Canuck not to throw a full 6 innings.
True. Todd Daly came from Mercer. He spent the first 3 years at Mercer. The middle pin leads to who is the closer. Yeah, we talked about that a minute ago. I do think probably one of the bigger questions would be how the roles in the bullpen shake out. Who slides into what role and who's pitching in the middle of the game. If you got to take a starter out after 3, or who's your setup guy. Because I think you got some options. I think those roles are probably yet to be solidly defined. I think they've probably got a pretty good idea of what they want each guy to do, but those things can be changed in the middle of the season. But man, if we're banking on closers right now, I'm rolling with Deion Brown. I can see Hayden Simerson maybe pitching some on the back end if he's more effective than I saw in the fall. And maybe the same thing with VC. As I'm sure everybody saw, he got arrested and he might miss a few games. So whenever he gets back. Before there was Cam, there was Bryce Teodosio. Yeah, he was pretty damn good out there himself. Teo was a pretty good center fielder. All right. So, as mentioned a minute ago, you've seen Clemson predicted to be a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. That means they have not had a really good season, just good enough to basically get in. I've seen them in 2 different – I think it was 2 different ones projected as a 2 seed. I think the highest I've seen them, I think it was the number 20 overall seed, which would be the fourth number 2 seed.
Okay.
And it had them projected to go play in the Arkansas regional. I'm not saying this team's going to Omaha or anything like that, but I don't know, man. I have a hard time not seeing this team hosting when we get to regional play.
Let me say this. If last year's team was good enough to host a regional, I would be so shocked if this year's team is not as good or better.
This team should be better than last year's.
They should. There is no world that makes sense to me where this team is not better than it was last year. Cam Kennerella's gone. That hurts 100%. There's some guys leaving that hurt. Andrew Chufo. However,
but yeah, we got to also remember Cam didn't really start getting back to being Cam until the end of the season last year after the shoulder surgery. So, I mean,
this team is talented enough, is deep enough, has a good mix of veterans and young guys. Like, it's all there. All the pieces are there for them to make a run. We say this every year, and that's tough, truly. And Backish said we're not talking about Omaha, so we won't talk about Omaha. But what I will say is they should definitely be a seed to host a regional.
Yeah, I
3 seed with Aiden Cannot coming back as a junior, adding in all of these transfers, adding in the home run leader in the country, and 7 really good freshman pitchers. And you think they're going to be worse?
Yeah, and you also have to throw the coaching aspect in there because I think that played a big part in Clemson winning as many games as they did last year. Because, man, there was a lot of those games that they probably could have lost that they ended up winning. I mean, I just think Bakich is that kind of coach. But
for sure.
I mean, I think they've won at least 43 games in each of his first 3 years. I have a hard time seeing them not hit the 40-win mark this year. I don't know. Again, like I said earlier, I was just so encouraged by what I saw from the pitching. And I get it. It's intra squads. They're playing against each other, and you still got to go out and do it when the lights are on. But that was the most encouraged I have come out of the fall, I think, since Bakich has been there.
Mm-hmm.
Going probably even before Bonnie got here. At least from a pitching standpoint. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised by what I saw. I still got my notes that I took during the fall because I wanted to make sure I had them to go back and look at. They're about 3.5 hours away, but I got them.
You do have them. Ready to go. Yeah, there was a lot to really like in the fall, and I feel the most confident I have about just the overall ceiling of this team in a while. Now, with that being said, every team has to find its own identity, right? And last year's identity was they were able to scrap out wins, manufacture runs. And that is a skill in and of itself that they were able to do that, right?
We talked about them not hitting nearly as many home runs last year, but they had like 50 more walks.
Yes. So that's a skill in and of itself that you need to have some of that scrap transfer over. You can't just rely on the long ball. Like, you got to find an identity. You can't rely on home runs or pitchers transferring over. You know, there's no transitive property from that. But with all that being said, I feel really good about it.
Yeah, that's another thing I like about Eric Bakich. He's not, if you go back to when Monty Lee was here, those teams tended to play station to station and kept waiting on the big hit, the big inning, the long ball. Basically, they just sat there waiting on the home run. They weren't very aggressive on the base paths. But Bakich, his philosophy is a little different. He tends to kind of bend his philosophy to the strength of his team, and to me, that's always a sign of a really, really good head coach. The kinds that can adapt to the players that they have, and we saw him do that last year. They were a little more aggressive on the base paths than they were the year prior, due to the fact they weren't hitting as many home runs and they were getting on base a lot with walks. A guy like Listy who was just on base all the time, but nobody was hitting them over the fence to drop them in. So you got, like you said, manufacture them. I do think I absolutely believe this team's probably are definitely going to have more power. They probably should be back in the range to what they were the year before last when they hit more than 100 home runs. I would think this team should be in that ballpark. But again, when I think about what I saw from the pitching in the fall, and even some of the hitters in the lineup, I have a hard time seeing this team not hosting a regional. I think this team has got enough to get to the super regional round. Anything beyond that, I don't know yet. It's hard to make those kind of predictions in the preseason. But I definitely think this is one of the 16 best teams in the country, and I would be outright shocked if they don't host a regional. I've been eating a lot of crow on here lately, so it might turn out that I eat some more crow. But as it stands right now, I think this team's going to host a regional. So, but before we kind of turn it over, get to the football stuff, what's your prediction for this weekend, opening day, Saturday, Sunday, with Army coming to town?
I think with what we've been talking about, the depth of this team, the power I think this team's going to have, I think Clemson should sweep this series. I think they should. I think they should bring out the sweep uniforms on Sunday, all the things. Will that happen? Will it translate? Not exactly sure. I've never seen this team before. But I'm going with an opening season sweep. What about you, JP?
3 games to none. The only reason why Clemson doesn't sweep this weekend is if they have to play 2 on Saturday and they get stretched in a little bit from the pitching standpoint. But I no knock on Army or anything, but and it might, who knows? Maybe they drop one at some point over the weekend just because they need to knock the rust off a little bit. I don't foresee that happening. I think this team's going to come out of the gate kind of swinging. I think the guys that were here last year probably have a little bit of a sour taste in their mouth the way they kind of went out with a whimper last year, the way the ACC tournament ended by getting shellacked and then getting shellacked in the regional to end the season, all due to a lack of quality arms or a lack of quality depth. Let's say that. And I don't think you have that problem this year. I think we'll see a lot of guys throw this weekend. A lot of guys that probably weren't here last year. So fans you can expect to get familiar with a few of those new faces and probably even a couple of those freshmen that I've been talking about for weeks. Yeah, I'm like you. 3 games to nil. Clemson starts out with a sweep of Army. After that, I forget, who did they host in the midweek first game? You remember?
I need to look.
I got it.
Right, maybe
Charlotte. Charlotte comes to town Tuesday. Then they'll host Bryant for 3 games. Then it's PC, and then the South Carolina series starts there at Founders Park. Then we play that neutral site game at Segra before the Sunday game in Clemson. So that's kind of how the first 3 weekends shape out. We both say a sweep is coming. We can talk about the midweek game next Monday.
Clemson's got a really tough ACC schedule coming up. South Carolina's always got to be tough. Always going to be tough. You got to start off strong. They a hole.
They absolutely have to come out the gate swinging and take care of business in the non-conference because you hit the nail on the head. This is not the easiest of conference schedules. When they start ACC play, you get Georgia Tech at home for 3 games. Then you go up north and have to play Notre Dame. That's in March. You never know what the weather's going to be like up there. That won't be easy. Miami comes to Clemson. That'll be a tough one. Then you go play Wake Forest in a midweek game in Charlotte. Then you got to go out west and play Stanford. They're going to play Santa Clara in a midweek while they're out there on a Monday. Back home against North Carolina. That one's not easy. Then up to Virginia. Host Louisville. Get a little bit of a breather with Boston College coming in after that, and then it's right back at it. Florida State comes in, and you end the regular season with a 3-game slate at Virginia Tech, who's always a tough out. That's a brutal one.
Yeah, that's my only kind of, as you were talking about it, That would be, as of now, my only stipulation as to why Clemson would not host a regional is because of that strength of schedule and that trip to California and coming right back and playing a top 3 ACC team. Things like that, that's going to take a lot of mental toughness to overcome. And
got to beat them at some
got to
point.
start off strong with that coming up.
At some point. No, I'm sticking with what I said. Clemson's hosting a regional. I don't know if they're going to get out of regional play. I'm saying they're hosting a regional.
All right. Call it now. I love it.
All right. You want to jump into some basketball now?
Of course I do. Amazing.
No inexplicable losses so far for Clemson this year because Brownell ball is really different this year so far. Yeah, there has not been a bad loss. That's for sure, man. You look at the net rankings, Clemson's not – they don't have a – I don't think they have any – they don't have any quad 4 losses. I don't think they have any quad 3 losses either.
Depends on where Georgetown is right now.
Yeah, I'm fixing to look it up here. They might have one quad 3. I can't remember for sure. Let's see here. Five and 0 against quad 3. 5-0 against quad 4. They are 6-1 against quad 2. That's Georgetown. Georgetown's number 94 in the net. So since that was an away game, that'll probably stay a quad 2 game. The lowest rated quad 2 win is Pittsburgh. They're number 122. They're 4-3 against quad 1, and they're fixing to. I know they got a game Wednesday night against who they play Wednesday. I forgot. Is it NC State?
Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech. They got a game against. They got Virginia Tech, but then they got a Duke for the big one. You know that it's fixing to get tough on them here, and it's not going to be probably not any bad losses, but we're going to find out what this team's really, really made of here over the next couple weeks. It is Virginia Tech that comes in Wednesday, and then you got 2 road games in a row, one at Duke, one at Wake Forest back home against Florida State and Louisville. That Louisville one will be tough. And then you go on the road, play North Carolina. I mean, it's fixing to toughen up a little bit. Yeah, I am very anxious to see this team match up against Duke. We've seen Duke, as good as Duke is, they're not unbeatable. They just got beat Saturday night. They got court stormed. Poor coaches got punched at.
Which, by the way, that's a whole nother conversation. Yet to see a video.
I have not seen video proof of anybody getting punched. You're going to enjoy that up there, especially if Clemson somehow finds a way to win. Oh, that press conference with that head coach would be glorious.
Well, here's what I'm thinking about it. Number one, Virginia Tech has a little bit of trap game written on it, right? Got to get through that on Wednesday. You're currently tied with Duke for first in the ACC. You got to keep that going into Saturday. Can't drop to Virginia Tech at home. I think they'll be fired up. I think they'll be ready to go, especially because after going on a 2-0 road trip to California, you don't move up at all in the rankings. So I think that keeps you in it. That keeps you sharp. But I think that Clemson is definitely going to make it a game at Cameron Indoor because they made everything a game all year. Yep. Even when they were down 19 in the first half to Alabama, came back and it was a 3-point game with a minute to play. It's going to be a game.
Virginia Tech's number 55 in the net rankings. They are 2-7 in quad 1 games, and 5-1 in quad 2 games. This would be a quad 1 win for them, quad 1 game for them since they're coming to Clemson. Are we allowed to watch any spring practices? Very little. They usually let us in to 3 over the first week, 10 days, and we get to watch like the first 5 periods. It's really nothing more than stretching, some individual drills. So, when you get right down to it, no, we don't really watch practice. Do I know what Lane Kiffin is talking about with TJ Daugherty? You're gonna have to tell me what Lane Kiffin said about TJ Daugherty. TJ Daugherty is the former T.J. Dudley,
The artist formerly known as.
former Clemson linebacker who was kicked off the team. Y'all can discuss amongst yourselves what he was kicked off the team for. What you've heard, if it is spelled out right here, it's pretty much true, as far as I know. And I don't know that anybody's in jail. But I do know this. From my understanding, there's more to the story than somebody just going in the locker room taking pictures of somebody. But that, from my understanding, was one of the details. But I don't know what Lane Kiffin said about him, so you're gonna have to refresh me on that.
I believe he essentially came out and said that he had a different understanding of that whole situation.
Yeah, there's some things I've heard about that I've never seen mentioned publicly. So I don't know how widespread it is. Let's see what he says. He said everyone got TJ Dottery wrong. Lane Kiffin sets the record straight. Oh, that's a video. I ain't watching it. So he was basically saying that we don't know the whole story.
Yes.
Something that people don't talk about this part, and that the person that did this to him is now in jail. Now, that might very well be true, because as I've said, there's some other details to that thing that I've not really seen public. I don't think TJ Dudley is the guy that Clemson fans portray him to be. And I'll just leave it at that. I know that's not saying a lot, but I'm not getting into the detail. Not my story to tell. Oh, you want to talk about recruiting?
Let's do it. I'm here with the expert.
What is the pulse on Andrew Beard and Jamar Simmons? Saw crystal ball went in for Simmons today. I really like Clemson's chances with Simmons. He was the first wide receiver they offered last June, and he was the only wide receiver they offered for a long time. They finally offered a second. DJ Huggins last fall sometime. I can't even remember what date it was exactly or what month, but Simmons stayed the only offered wide receiver in the 27 class for months. Clemson's in a really good spot with him. He doesn't do a lot of interviews, so he's not very talkative to the media and stuff. Like he'll tell me when he's visiting and when the staff's visiting him and stuff, but he don't do I can't get him on the phone. He's not been very receptive to that, and I don't see interviews with him online. Andrew Beard. You know who Garrison Hurst is?
Mm-mm.
He was a running back at Georgia, big time running back at Georgia, like a nationally known guy. Everybody knew who Garrison Hurst was. That's why I asked, because you're a little younger and this was back in the day. Andrew Beard is his nephew.
Interesting.
He's from the state of Georgia. He's been on Clemson's radar for a while. He's a 4-star running back. I think he doesn't live too far from Athens, if I'm remembering right. He's definitely from the state of Georgia, but kind of like at wide receiver, Clemson had only offered one running back, Trey Segura, who's a in-state guy. He goes to Burns. Parents are South Carolina alums, or at least one of them.
He's a baller.
Oh yeah, you've seen him play. That's right. You've done some Burns games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've always thought he was a long shot for Clemson to land him just because of the ties to South Carolina. Everybody wants him. I think there's a crystal ball in for him to LSU. Matter of fact, I think it was Wilt Fong that put it in, and I don't think this kid's even close to announcing or even deciding. So we'll see if that ends up happening. But I don't think he's anywhere close to making a decision. But I also don't think he's going to end up at Clemson. They didn't offer a second running back until January, and it was Beard, Andrew Beard. He visited College several times now. He was at camp last summer. He was back for the LSU game, and he's been extremely high on Clemson. And he puts but they don't offer him. He's just waiting and waiting and waiting. They're recruiting him now. Don't get me wrong, but they just haven't offered him yet.
What do you think is the hesitation there to offer him? And like you said, with wide receiver,
it's all about Segura. It's all about wanting to make him feel like the priority. It's not a knock on Beard. They just that's their way of showing Segura how bad they want him. And a lot of times that'll blow up in your face. But Beard is a guy that's been, I've had several conversations with this kid. He really likes Clemson. He put out a list of finalists. I can't remember. I think it was maybe the end of last year, early part of this year, maybe. I can't remember when it was. And Clemson was not on it, which he didn't have an offer. Why would he be on it? They finally offered him last month during the contact period. And I got him on the phone for a little while that night or the night after or something. And, he's saying all the right things, but you can tell in his voice, how geeked up he was about it. And he's going to be here March the 7th. And today he put out a new list of finalists. Clemson's now on it.
There you go.
A lot of people think this kid's automatically a lock to Georgia because of the Garrison Hurst connection. I don't know that that's the case. I don't think it is. I'm not saying he won't ultimately end up at Georgia. Maybe he does. But I don't think it's like he's a lock. They've already got a commitment from the top running back in the 27 class already. They've already got a commitment from a second running back in the 27 class. So they've already got two on the board. Not sure how Beard would feel about being the number 3 take.
Mm.
This guy's he's too good to be the number 3 take in the class.
When he posted his finalists, was it one of those where he posts like 8 different ones, or was it down to 2 or 3 or 4?
4.
Okay.
And matter of fact, he did it while I was driving up here today. It's Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, and Clemson.
Okay.
And he will be here March 7th for the elite retreat. I'm not saying he's going to end up at Clemson. He might very well not. I just think Clemson's got a legit shot at this kid. I've talked to him enough to know that he has a genuine appreciation for how they do things. And he was also very, what's the word I'm looking for here? Very intrigued by the Chad Morris hire. And his, I don't know if y'all have seen the Two Right Turns podcast, but him talking about how they're going to run the football. That's going to be the identity. That's what running backs like to hear, man. Especially after he was at the LSU game when they didn't really make an effort to run the ball at all. He and Segura were both there. Not the best night to have your top running back targets on hand. All right, we're here. We are over an hour, so we're gonna. Here's one. Only way Andrew Beard gets out of Georgia is if Kirby lets him leave. I don't know that that's true. We'll see, man. Why is Dabo signing walk-ons to fill the 105? There aren't any players in the portal that could contribute. Are these all under-recruited, high-upside, potential developmental guys? I think it's a great question because we were all led to believe Clemson was going to fully fund the 105, right?
Oh, yeah.
There weren't going to be any more walk-ons. Well, Clemson gets commitments from 2 different dudes right before signing day. A wide receiver from Florida, a legacy guy from Florida. His daddy played at Florida, and then an in-state defensive end, Conor McGregor from Catawba Ridge. And when on signing day comes and they announce one of those guys and not the other.
which
And
was which I thought was interesting.
I did too. Matter of fact, I was going to write something up after they announced them all, and I kept waiting and waiting and waiting, and they didn't never announce that guy. So I reached out to the school, and I was told that, as far as I know, there won't be any more scholarship players signing today. So that right there, ding, 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 ding. Okay, he's not on scholarship. I finally got the kid on the phone.
It was great. If y'all haven't read that, go and read JP's article about this kid today. It was great stuff.
He is a PWO. And I thought that's how I started the story. Apparently, PWOs are not a thing of the past.
That's a thing? We're saying PWO in 2026?
I mean, look, some schools do that. You get 105 roster spots. You don't have to give scholarships to all 105. Matter of fact, you can give partial scholarships, or you can let the final 5 be walk-ons and don't give them anything. But Clemson had said they were going to fully fund all 105. As far as why they're doing it that way, I mean, I don't know. I can't answer that. I don't know why you don't put him on scholarship with the rest of the guys, but he's a PWO. He'll go on scholarship at some point. I don't really know much about the kid at Florida. He missed the receiver. He missed his whole senior season. So there's no senior film to watch, but there's some things to like about the McFadden kid. If you watch his film, that's how he got on Clemson's radar. Mike Reed went and watched Josh Dobson back in the fall, and he just happened to see McFadden had a good night. But as far as players in the portal that could contribute, I mean, you've pretty much you're not adding. I mean, your roster's kind of set. To me, the biggest thing you don't have that you wanted to get out of the portal is a starting linebacker. No, there's not a starting quality linebacker left in the portal. I mean, this is just the staff trying to take kids to fill out the 105. We're talking about the last 2-3 spots on the roster because there's 101 or 102 spots filled, depending on whether you're counting Tristan Smith. If you count him, it's 102. If you don't, it's 101. But heck, even when Ross Taylor put out a thing of the 105 the other day, it didn't have this kid's name on it, even though he says he's on the 105. We'll see what it looks like. But he's also not enrolled yet. Maybe they're waiting until he's enrolled to put him on the roster. That could be a very valid reason why. But it's just filling out the last few spots on the roster. That's all they're doing. And now why they didn't put him on scholarship, we're going to have to ask Dabo about that. Spurrier called him out. Spurrier didn't call anybody out. Spurrier got asked the question and he answered it. And Spurrier was actually wrong. There are rules against tampering. Somebody should fill him in on that. I mean, you can pull up the rule book and find them. It's a level 2 or a level 1 violation, depending on the severity of the tampering. But it is absolutely against the rule.
It is a rule.
No matter whether Spurrier says it is or not, does not change the fact that it's a rule.
And just because people, I have so many thoughts. There's a rule even if people don't follow it.
The question is, are they going to do anything to enforce them?
Well, I was going to ask you that because in Dabo's big speech heard around the world, he called out the NCAA and said, this doesn't need to be a 3-month, a 6-month thing. This could be over in a couple days.
Yeah.
What's the most recent on that?
It was never getting done in 3 days. Fresno State's turned in Ole Miss too. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. I wouldn't expect anything. And I'm not sure Clemson expects anything either. But if the NCAA doesn't do anything, then that allows them to go a different route and go the legal route and maybe sue them. So I think there's still a lot of twists and turns left in that story. Here's somebody saying Danny Nelson's going to be a name to look for. How much do you think we see of Dylan Harrison this year?
I think he's got a lot of upside. I think you saw him, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember seeing him primarily as a hitter in the fall. Saw him do some good things. I don't know. What?
I don't know what you said. Somebody said you just went full back or all back. It's just
There's no telling.
All right, it's Baseball America that's got Clemson as the 2 seed in Arkansas.
Would love to see that reasoning.
The TJ Dudley thing. Yeah, I didn't know that the person was in jail. So that's just I'm glad to hear that. Is Colin Priest hurt? I haven't heard that he was. I also haven't been here.
Not that I know of right now.
I haven't heard of any major injuries, but I have not been here either. So, I mean, I've heard Beckett's. Matter of fact, he told us last week there's some soft tissue injuries and minor stuff, but all right. Key players on offense and pitching you're excited about. We already kind of did the new players thing. Who's your key player on offense that you're excited about?
Is this somebody new or
just key player, period?
Luke Gaffney right now. I think that's somebody that is going to look like a different player. And full transparency, you need him to be better.
Let's see. Key player. I'm going
There's a lot of good choices.
I know. I can't
before the season.
I'm going Savoy.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
And the reason why is because he's and Mike could put Tally in that. I'm gonna call him Tally 14 million times between now and May because it T starts with a T and
we'll know what you mean.
It's because even though I'm not dyslexic, my dyslexic tendencies taking over. So you could probably put Dally in this category too, but I'm going with Savoy because I just think he's capable of hitting 17, 18 home runs this year. I think he's just that guy that's going to make a difference in the middle of the lineup. So I'm going to go with him as the pitching that I'm excited about. The freshman, man, I'm telling you, I was so – I've said it 100 times and I'll say it again. I feel like an idiot for saying it over and over, but man, I was so encouraged by what I saw from some of those young arms. But if I had to pick one guy that I'm really excited about, we talked about him earlier, Deion Brown.
Mm-hmm.
That's the pitcher that I really think could have a breakout year. Who's one for you?
I'm excited to see a fully healthy Talon Bell. I think you saw some really good pieces that he had last year. And, I think he's got the stuff, the potential, the personality, all of it. If he can put that together, he's going to be fun to watch.
And he was never really cut fully loose last year.
Never.
Yeah. So we really haven't seen the 100% Talon Bell. All right, back to football. Weakest position going into next season. What you got? We got to wrap this thing up. We way over.
I
I'm
might need to
tired.
think on it for a little bit. Jack Smith does have another year of eligibility.
Yeah, Jack Smith's the punter. The weakest position going into next season? Every fiber of my being wants to say quarterback. But I just think he got a lot of unknowns there. I'm going to go, man. I'm going linebacker. I think they're really hurt by the loss of Farrelly.
Yeah, you're right.
I think he and Sammy Brown would have made one heck of a duo at Mike and Will, and losing out on him so late, just you can't replace him. There's nobody really left that caliber that you can go out and get to replace him. So you're kind of stuck with what you got. So you're gonna have to get Kobe McLeod ready to roll. We'll see if Jeremiah Alexander makes it a competition over there, but we really only saw him in 3 linebacker sets for the most part last year. When they needed a backup at will, it was usually McLeod, and he wasn't bad, but I just think he's a little limited physically. I think he's got a high football IQ, but we'll see, man. If you can get the defensive line to play better, then it's probably not going to hurt you as bad as it would have if the defensive line's not playing as well as it should. So, I mean, but if you're asking me about the one position, that's probably where I'm going to go is linebacker.
I think I'm going offensive line depth. I am. I just don't really know what. A lot of questions, a lot of unknowns there for me.
Yeah, I think there are serious questions about the interior of the defensive line. You get Amari Adams back, and you bring in Marcus Strong, who's got a lot of upside, and but he just didn't play a ton at Oklahoma. And I get it; he was stuck behind 2 elite level tackles, and that's why he left. Is because they both decided to come back, and he's stuck behind them again. But then after that, you get the guy, you get the JUCO guy, but after those 3, I think there's some questions there. You got the Courtney Kelly kid who he's only like 280, 285. He's going to need to add some bulk. He's still a youngster though. You're going to need a guy like Vic Burley. It's time. It's his time. He was a 5-star kid coming out of high school. Terrible luck his freshman season, injuries, and probably got out of football shape a little bit, but he's been back healthy for a year or so now. This is the time they need him to step up.
Yeah, this is the time. This is the time for a lot of people on this roster, in my opinion.
All right, back to baseball. Infield defense. What you think about the infield defense?
Well, I think you got a lot of really good guys that have proven to be good defenders. It's just going to be a matter of people getting used to playing with each other, I think. But, I mean, you have some question marks, like at third base. But I feel pretty good about that.
I do too. I think the infield's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I think they're going to be pretty solid.
Yeah, so do I. You know what you got in Purify. Gaffney was hella good defensively over the first half last year before whatever.
Yep.
He kind of fell off a little bit, but we've seen he can do it. I haven't seen a ton of Fultz. We know what you get in McClatty, but Lichtenberger was strong in the fall, man. He's got a lot of range.
Yeah, he's going to be was really good last year defensively.
He's got a really good arm.
Yeah.
I like him at shortstop. And, I lean towards thinking Fultz will probably be your starting third baseman opening day. It wouldn't outright shock me if it's not McClatty to begin with and Fultz kind of takes it over.
Who do you think is DHing opening day?
Savoy.
I agree.
I think you'll have Crichton in left, Clavon in center, Daly in right, and Savoy is your DH. Gaffney's your first baseman, and Priest is on the bench. And I'm going with Fultz at third base and McClatty on the bench. Ashby is right. We should have signed a veteran OL. Oh, I thought you said defensive line. Did you say defensive line? You said offensive line.
I said offensive line.
Oh, so that's why I started talking about the defense.
You were right there too. I mean,
I thought you said defensive line. Yeah, if it was up to me, Clemson would have went after a center and a tackle, and they did go after a few tackles. And I can't say this is what happened for certain, but kind of reading between the lines on some things, I heard that the guys they went after all wanted to play left tackle, and they got a left tackle for next year already. And Braden Jacobs, they were looking for somebody to play right tackle, and none of those guys are really interested. But if it was up to me, they would have cast a much wider net, and they would have also went after a center because
that's high stakes for an underclassman.
And I think Harris Sewell is going to be the center. I mean, he's kind of been the next guy in line, and as highly regarded as he was coming out of high school, he's just not gotten there yet. Maybe he's one of those dudes that it takes him 2-3 years to get there because next year will be his 4th year, if I'm remembering right. You know, maybe somebody beats him out. I mean, I know they told Gavin Blanchard they kind of saw him as the center of the future. Maybe one of those freshmen is capable of playing center. Man, I really think Chance Barkley and Grant Wise are two guys that are capable of probably finding a spot in the 2 deep. But yeah, there's a couple of questions about that offensive line, and for me, it starts at center. You probably can find somebody serviceable to play right tackle. But I also add this. When Chad Morris was here the first time, he was really good about scheming around a mediocre, less than mediocre offensive line. He was good at scheming stuff up to kind of hide that deficiency. Maybe he can do that again if you have the offensive line problems that some of us think they might have.
You're going to have to with an inexperienced quarterback.
Oh, and an inexperienced guy at center because they don't really have somebody. They don't really have anybody. I mean, I know Sewell's played a lot, but he hasn't played much center yet. All right, 90 minutes. 90 minutes. I guess that's
love it.
Before we get out of here, we want to give a big thank you to Trey Humphreys over with Old River Real Estate. He is looking to expand his clientele by providing the best customer service in the industry. Residential, commercial, investing, buying, or selling. Trey would love to help you. 843-617-6548. Fat finger trying to point out.
Thanks for that, JP, for the visual help.
Also, a big shout out to Adams Pest Control. You know, you got pest problems, termite problems, moisture problems, any of those kind of things. My man Mike and his crew can help you out there. Adams Pest Control, one of the best in the PD, man. They've been around a while. Give them a call today. They got a Facebook page, Adams Pest Control. Well, seeing as I kind of had to do this thing on the fly and didn't really come in here with much of a game plan, it didn't go, other than the diarrhea of the mouth, it didn't go that terribly, I didn't think.
JP, why are we setting the bar so low? That was great. We had so much fun.
Well, very much. I just want to say thank you for joining us on Monday night. She's going to be here from here through the end of baseball season. So this is kind of going to be the format for the foreseeable future.
Thank you so much for having me, JP. I'm so excited. Like I said at the very beginning of the show, it feels like it's Christmas Eve for me with baseball starting and us getting into postseason in basketball. So pumped to be here. Thank you for having me.
As happy as we are, it's baseball season. Ashby's making her first trip to Cameron on Saturday.
I am.
That'll be that's an awesome place to watch a basketball game. You're gonna love it. Right back here, Monday night, 7 p.m. We will talk the 3-game sweep of Army. We will talk Clemson's big road win over Duke. And Ashby, you'll tell us what it's like to sit courtside and watch Duke lose in Cameron.
That I can do. I'll be ready.
7 o'clock next week. Until then, check us out on the site, ClemsonInsider.com.